I put up a post, and I actually have that post on my shirt right here that I made of steak, eggs, and butter. And I just said, increase your cholesterol intake, increase your testosterone. It got like, 18,500 likes or something. And then Twitter put a warning on it, chest pain and having an unhealthy heart or something if you're going to eat like that. A couple days later, some journalist had contacted me from Newsweek, and he asked if he could use my content and do a write-up about me. And that really just blew up. And then he did a follow-up, and then he had a nutritionist who had an opposing view. I thought it was hilarious, to be honest, that I just put up a picture of my late lunch and like it took off and made national media.
All righty. Good morning, everybody. We've got Zack with us today. Zack, good to see you. Let me unmute you real quick. Zack, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Dr. Baker. Nice to meet you officially.
Yeah, likewise. Good to see you, man. It's been interesting watching you, just do your thing on social media. So anyway, thanks for coming. You're in New York. Correct me if you're wrong. I think you're in New York. Is that correct?
Correct. New York City.
Awesome. Nice. How are things there today?
It's a little cold. Was out this morning. Only like mid 30s, so not too bad. It's supposed to be a little bit of rain, but to be honest, I'm ready for the snow, man.
Got it. Yeah, we're snowy right where I'm at. I got a nice little winter wonderland right in my backyard, so it's pretty. It's about 25. It's a little chilly out here. Well, first of all, I guess there was. Well, I'll let you do this. Describe your background. I know you play some ball. Pretty big guy, lifting, lost some weight, doing a carnivore type diet. But tell us a little bit about your background, who you are.
Yeah, so former football player, played defensive tackle at the University of Southern California. Got up to 293 pounds at my highest. Was trying to get to 300. Just couldn't quite get there. My body just pushed back. Always pretty big into fitness, and my interest in nutrition just kind of grew throughout the years. And then I had, at one point, just doing some research on, lifting and being lean, came across this thing called the Ketogenic diet. And so after my football career ended, I thought, hey, let me go ahead and implement this. And I was able to drop 92 pounds going keto. And I was primarily eating, an animal meat-based type diet. And I felt great doing it. So I've just continued to do it ever since. It's worked really amazing for me. As far as social media, just during October 2020, one day I started a random Twitter account and just started posting videos of me lifting and pictures of my meals. I wasn't catering really to anyone specifically, just giving people insight as to what I do. And it just kind of took off. Yeah,
well, so you're at USC playing ball at tackle. You at 290. I got up to 305 was my heaviest, but I was probably 30 when I did that. So I was probably a little older. So it takes a little longer just to continue to gorge all the time. And, it's fun doing that, but at the same time, it has a cost. But let me ask you, if you drop 92 pounds, you got down to 200, you're clearly bigger than 200 pounds these days. Looking at you, you got to be at least, 240, 250, somewhere in that neighborhood. Where are you at right now?
So for most of 2022, I've been in the 230 to 240 range. Yeah. So let's just call it, 235. But yeah, to your point there, when I went from 293 and went all the way to 201, I wasn't trying to get that lean. I was just trying to look good for a photo shoot I had coming up for a buddy trying to build his portfolio. Yeah, the weight just went all the way down there. And, when I saw 201 on the scale, I'm like, oh crap, I got to put some weight on. I'm way too thin. My clothes look baggy. My lifts were suffering. And so I put on a lot of the muscle mass I think that I lost. Well, I know that I lost during that extreme cut. And yeah, now I feel pretty good in, the 230 to 240 range.
Yeah. I did something similar a couple of years ago. I got all the way down to 204 and I'm 255, 258, right? Something like that. And that was clearly too light. I didn't like it. It was just I felt really weird at that being that scrawny. So, I guess there was I guess because you lost that big amount of weight, some media picked it up. I think there was an article in some magazine or newspaper or something where they said, hey, this crazy dude is eating a bunch of meat and he lost 92 pounds. How did that develop?
Yeah, so I put up a post I had just randomly thought of on a Friday afternoon after I finished work. And I actually have that post on my shirt right here that I made. Of steak, eggs, and butter. And I just said it was increase your cholesterol intake, increase your testosterone. And it got like, I don't know, 18,500 likes or something. And then Twitter put a warning on it about, like chest pain and having an unhealthy heart or something if you're going to eat like that. And then a couple days later, it's like 5:45 in the morning, and I'm warming up for my weightlifting session. And I see some journalist had contacted me from Newsweek. And he was very polite and respectful. I do want to make note of that. And he asked if he could use my content and do a write-up about me. And, I granted him the permission there. Yeah, that really just blew up. I do think, if you read beyond the headline of that article, he was actually pretty neutral there and said, this is how I eat. And I've lost weight. And it's concerned a lot of people because they don't think the way that I'm eating is healthy. And, that's entirely true. A lot of people think that it's unhealthy. And then he did a follow-up article where he brought in, an opposing view where he brought in some follow-up by me on the diet. And then he had a nutritionist who had an opposing view give her concerns. But yeah, that's what happened with Newsweek. And, I thought it was hilarious, to be honest, that I just put up a picture of my late lunch and like it took off and made national media.
Yeah. Well, I've gone through that for a long time now, and it's kind of, they always have the sort of the mainstream dietitian comes in and tells you why you shouldn't want to do this sort of thing, which, fair. I mean, as long as they have a balanced view, I don't really care. I mean, it's any news is good exposure, I think, for this, because we're just seeing so many wins on this. Now, you keep putting up pictures of meal from your, I guess, I don't know, you have a view of the city up high. It looks like you got a nice apartment or condo or whatever you got up there. Yeah. I know New York is ridiculously expensive to live in. So, but I mean, you got these nice views of steak and eggs and butter and a few other things sometimes. What do you eat? What does your kind of diet look like?
So normally, if you're to look at a day where I'm lifting, I'm having about 3 pretty decent sized meals. So I already had my steak, eggs, and butter this morning. This afternoon, probably, a pint of kefir, maybe some more steak and eggs because that's what's in the fridge. And then, maybe I'll have some salmon for dinner with some avocado, maybe even some more eggs there. I really like eggs, if you haven't noticed. Then you look at my rest days, and I'll usually have 2 meals. So it's intermittent fasting type, where I'm not trying to like be OCD about, I need to eat within a 6 or 8 hour window. But all right, noon comes, 2 o'clock comes, 3 o'clock comes. Whenever I get pretty hungry, I'll have my meal, and then I'll have, my dinner usually between 8 and 10 p.m. there. And yeah, it's heavily meat-based. It's not, 100% animal product, even though it is, very meat and egg heavy. I'll have avocados every now and then, maybe a little broccoli, cauliflower. And then every couple of weeks, maybe I'll do some, large type carb up, go out with my wife for a sushi date or something.
Yeah, when you were at USC playing football, did they have a nutrition plan for the players? I mean, sometimes they have like, this is what you need to be at a certain body weight, because obviously certain positions, if you're playing a tackle, you got to be pretty sizable, right? So did they have like, this is how you need to eat, or they didn't care? They said, as long as you show up, whatever, we don't care.
So it's really independent on the player. If we had someone that was over or underweight for their position, they would have a little bit of help there. We brought in, our coach brought in a nutritionist who was very helpful to a lot of people. Depending on their weight needs. So I was usually within the proper range. But when I, personally wanted to get up to 300 pounds, because the bigger I was, the harder it would be for offensive linemen to move me around. I worked with the nutritionist a little bit, and, opposite of what I'm doing now, she analyzed that I was eating such an incredible amount of meat. She's like, you're going to feel fuller longer and ultimately consume less calories eating this way. We need to get some more carbohydrates in your diet to help you put on weight. So that's what I did.
Yeah, that's interesting. You talk to guys like Stan Efferding, who's been nutrition for some of these big strong men. These guys are 350, 400 pound dudes. And he's like, yeah, they just got to throw carbohydrates in there just so they can stimulate their appetite so much, because it's tough to be, it's literally a chore to get up to 300 pounds. If you're looking at, certainly the offensive linemen are the biggest guys on the field. I mean, these guys are the 340 pound giants that are offensive, guards and tackles and stuff like that. But still, you've got to just eat. And it's tough to, like on a carnivore diet, I can put down 6-7 pounds of meat a day, but it's tough. It's a challenge for me to do that. And you said you're about 235, 240. If you just said, how much meat am I eating a day? You think like 3-4 pounds or something like that? Is that pretty realistic, or?
Yeah, about 3-4 pounds is about right there.
Yeah, that's similar to me. I mean, we're very similar. I'm 6'5", like I said, 255 right now. And that's about 4 pounds is good for me right now to keep me kind of where I'm at. And so people always kind of wonder about this. Like, why the hell can you eat that much? I'm like, well, you're a big, and particularly if you're active. Let me ask you about because you're obviously not eating as much carbs. You said just kind of once in a while. How's your performance? You're lifting, your strength. I mean, do you feel like you could have performed as an athlete on a similar type of diet, or what are your thoughts?
So my strength is great, and from my own line of thought and from the research, what I think is going on is I built up a lot of this muscle that I have eating higher carbohydrates to get bigger. So after I lost a lot of the weight going keto, when I started trying to put muscle back on, I do think I had a little bit of an easier time than somebody would have who never had that muscle in the first place. Can it be done? Yes, but I do have the advantage of having that muscle previously. As far as performance, the first 5 weeks years ago when I cut out carbohydrates, those are horrible. But, that's because my body was adjusting. After that, like, it's been great. Like, at this point in time, I probably haven't done, a real carb up in somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 weeks now. And my strength has been great in the weight room. I've been putting on a little bit more weight week by week. So when people are saying, "Oh, dude, you're not going to be able to perform without the carbohydrates," like, I'm performing great without them. That said, when I feel it's right, I'll go have a big carb up and replenish myself. And before I lift, I do like to have a tablespoon of maple syrup with a black coffee, like an Americano or a strong espresso drink, just for some quick carbs. But that's only like 15, 20 grams of carbs there, so nothing too significant.
Yeah, that's, and I think that's very fair to say. I mean, over the years when I did ketogenic diets, I experimented with cyclic ketogenic diets and targeted ketogenics, and I was drinking maple syrup before lifting. And I mean, for me, I didn't notice that much of a difference, to be honest. But I mean, whatever, if it works for you, that's completely fine. Are you getting any sort of, I mean, outside of the Twitter warning? I'm surprised you got that, because I've never seen a warning on any of my posts, and I'm always talking about meat, as you know. I've yet to get a hey, this is bad from Twitter. So it's interesting that you got that. Have you gotten any other sort of negative pushback? Do you get any like, hey, you're going to kill yourself, or any kind of the vegan nonsense where, oh my God, you're an animal abuser type stuff that I get all the time? Are you getting any of that?
I do get, random people online wishing me death, wishing me harm, saying things about animals and whatnot. And it's like, I don't care how somebody chooses to eat themselves. Like, that's personal and to you. And if you have a moral or ethical reason to eat one way, or, it's a reason for your personal health and you believe a certain style is going to work for you, fine. But like, to come and attack somebody who, hasn't done anything wrong, just post their meals, it's crazy, So I just kind of brush it off for the most part. But yeah, I do get a lot of negativity, but I'll take it. I know it's what ultimately helps get me some more engagement, spread my message, ends up attracting more positivity than negative.
Yeah, that's a funny thing, because I'll often get these people, often they're plant-based people that are kind of moralizing about how they're better ethically than you are, something like that. And it's like, literally you're wasting time on my social media because no one cares. No one believes you. No one's that brainwashed. Go spend time on a 15-year-old girl's social media. Those are the people you can actually affect, because they're driven by emotion. Whereas, these people that have like, look, I've been there, I've done it, I've lived my life. I understand what you're trying to say, but it's nonsense. It's just kind of funny that they waste their time on this sort of stuff. But great, if they're wasting their time on me, they're not influencing some 15-year-old girl that they could actually have an impact on. There's some people that will say, if you eat all this protein, because obviously you're eating 3-4 pounds of meat, eggs, whatever, you're putting 300-400 grams of protein down some days. Any negatives effects on that? Have you noticed like your kidneys are failing, or your liver's failing, or any of those types of things?
No, nothing negative at all. I mean, people are always asking for blood test results, and like, I never thought people would have an interest in my medical history, and I realize that they do. But I've had my blood tested multiple times over the years, and all my numbers have always been stellar. There's been times where I just don't really want to have a nutritional conversation with my doctors. They ask how I eat, And I'm like, oh, just regular recommendations, whatever. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I can tell your blood work is perfect. So yeah, everything's always been fine. So, perhaps sometime in the near future, I'll go get some more blood work and actually save the results since people are interested, and show people everything's all right.
Yeah, and it's again, it's more important. In my view, it's more important how you're performing and how you look and how you feel and all that thing, because the blood work can be very. It doesn't always represent the whole deal. I think people need to understand that. But you've been certainly not shy about what you're doing. I mean, I see you out in the street, walking down New York City, the street just chawing on a big old hunk of salmon or something like that. Some people are very reclusive and they're not willing to say, it's my personal business what I eat. But you've been a little more in your face about it. Obviously, you got a social media account like I do, and I'm happy to do that. Is that intentional to sort of like stick it to some people, or is it just saying, "Hey, this is what I do"?
A lion doesn't care about the opinion of sheep, so like people can think about me whatever they want. I mean, like that salmon video. Literally, my wife, son, and I were walking through New York City one day. And I was hungry, so I stopped in a Whole Foods and I just grabbed this pack of salmon and opened it and started eating it. It was pre-cooked. And my wife looked at me and she's like, "You're crazy. You're just walking around the city eating a piece of salmon." I'm like, this is what I want to eat, whatever.
If
and then I was like, next time we should film it. So the next time we filmed it, but it wasn't like intentional. Oh, let's do something crazy. It was just, hey, this is something I normally do and it'd make for great content.
Yeah, I mean, if you're walking around eating an ice cream cone, no big deal. But if you're eating something actually nutritious and good for you, high quality protein, it's like, oh my God, look at that guy. He's crazy. I don't know. It's kind of funny how we have gotten as a society where, what's going on there. New York City, you've got a mayor, Eric Adams, who wants everybody to live a plant-centered I think he said he called it a plant-centered based life or some gobbledygook that he was doing. Are you seeing a lot of pressure within the city to go vegan, to give up meat? Is that just a headline, or is there actually some real stuff going on there?
From my experience, it's a headline. To be honest, I don't do politics, so I see stuff come across my timeline. I block it, I mute it, I click, I'm not interested in this ad. But, of course, you see some things here and there online, but that's not really representative of this area. I mean, every single grocery store I walk into, there's always that cliche person or two that's in your way because they need to observe every single steak and pick out the most perfect one. And all right, sometimes I'm that dude as well. But like, nah, this city, I think we got like 10 million people just in the main area of Manhattan alone. We got plenty of meat eaters here. I don't see veganism being pushed or any diet being pushed for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, and which part of New York City are you? I know there's different boroughs. Are you in a particular area?
I just want to keep that part undisclosed. But
okay, no, that's fine.
You're the center of it all. You're the center of it all.
Okay, because I know when I visited New York for the first time in 2020. I'd flown through, but I'd never spent any time, and I did a couple interviews out there, and I met with a friend of mine, Tony Hernandez, and we had just awesome steak at a place called Beck's Prime down in downtown Manhattan. I think it might have been on Fifth Avenue, but one of the best steaks I've had. I can legitimately say that. And I've eaten a lot of steaks over the years. And so they got some really nice, obviously world-class steakhouses in New York. Now they're not cheap, but I mean, you definitely get some good steak there. I mean, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. We got options and I know there was some video that went viral. Some dude that find a grocery store, on his Google Maps. And he's like, how do people shop here? I got at least 7 places I can walk to with, within reason and go get myself a nice steak around here. So the steak scene is great.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Do you have a certain goal as an athlete? I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life and I can't get it out of me. I'm always wanting to compete and always wanting to do something or, at least have the sensation of training. Do you foresee any that going away for you? And if not, what are you wanting to go? Do you have any goals you're trying to achieve?
So, I really missed the game of football and I needed something to fill that void for me. Weightlifting just happens to be it. I mean, it's a little bit different where, it's not a team sport. And personally, I like to lift early in the morning when I have the gym to myself or, at least super empty. But just, getting those endorphins flowing or whatever, doing something physical, intense, hardcore is really what makes me feel good. And so that's really how I feel fill that athletic void nowadays. I don't know if I'm interested in finding something where I'm directly competing with somebody else, because I got, so much of that out of my system when I was younger, but I'll always need to do something athletic. So I'm going to lift weights for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, it's interesting to see some, like I've had the opportunity to train with a lot of like Olympic champions, gold medalists, world champions. And a lot of them, I mean, unfortunately, when I would meet them, they'd be like just fat. I was like, what the hell happened to you, dude? It's kind of like I guess they got so burnt out of the hardcore training that they just kind of like, and they can never reach that level again. I guess it's tough when you reach this, I'm the champion of the world or Olympic gold medalist, and I'll never, ever, no matter what I do, get to that level again. Maybe it's demotivating or they just got burned out on it. So it's kind of interesting to stay what keeps people engaged over the lifetime. And it's, it's almost kind of an addiction. For me, it is. I know I can't ever foresee a point where I'm not training. So much so that I've got, I train at home, which is convenient. It's very nice. I can just walk downstairs and throw a weight on the bar and get going. So that's nice and convenient. Do you, you said you have your wife, is she like on board with this? Is she like, you're nutty? Is she kind of more animal based, or what's going on with her?
I mean, she is pretty healthy as well. Not the same as me, but I mean, she's seen the way that I've eaten, for years now. And so, nothing wrong with it to her. To her, it's totally normal. So. Yeah,
I remember my better half. She was like, when I started doing this carnivore thing, she goes, well, how long are you going to do that for? And I said, well, maybe I think I'm going to do it for a year. And now I'm going into my 7th year of this stuff. And, and she's totally on board. I mean, she is like completely like 98%, like, over time she realized that works really well for her as well. And it just seems to work well for a lot of people. Do you have any downsides? I mean, you said the first 5 weeks was kind of a struggle, but beyond that, have you noticed any downsides to eating a bunch of meat and eggs and stuff like that?
Not really. I mean, every once in a while, like I said, I do need to do a carb up because I feel maybe a little bit of lack of energy, but that might not necessarily be to do 100% with the diet. That could also be due to intense training where you're going to feel a little bit run down at any point in time. Yeah, I'd say not really many downsides. And then, to your point earlier, I thought I'd bring up, I'm not really needing like carbs before a workout like I do the maple syrup. I've tried without it as well, and I've had amazing workouts without it. I just find sometimes it gives me that little boost. But I just wanted to say to anyone listening out there, it's not necessary if you don't want to do it. It's just something I found success with, but I've had success without it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like I said, I'm not gonna knock somebody that's having success with something. And how do you feel? I mean, how often are you able to train? Do you notice any difference in recovery? I can tell personally, I recover better, and I'm an old guy, and it's one of those things a lot of people tell you when you get older, you need to slow it down. You need more recovery days, and I've not found that to be true for me. So I don't know. Do you notice a difference in your ability to recover, your inflammation, your swelling, your joint pain, your muscle aches now prior to then? I mean, you're still pretty young, so it may be hard to really say that, but.
The biggest thing with recovery for me is, making sure I get, a proper amount of protein and calories, and as well as sleep. If I'm not sleeping, that's where my recovery really starts to fail. It's kind of hard to compare back when, I was eating and training for football, because the training was so different, 4, 5, 6 days a week sometimes in the gym, felt I needed the carbohydrates. And to be honest, pretty sure I did need them back then. Can't ever 100% say since I didn't try eating this way back then, but I do think I did need them. But nowadays I do 3 full body, super intense workouts per week. I could do more, but I do want to devote time to my family and other interests of life. So yeah, I do 3 pretty intense workouts per week where I do need that time, that sleep, that protein and those calories to recover, given I'm hitting my whole body with very heavy weights.
Do you notice any, outside of like athletic performance, strength, recovery, any differences in going keto and now even, more animal based relative to back in the day? I mean, digestive things, mood, cognition, any kind of changes with that stuff?
Oh yeah. My, cognitively, I've felt a lot sharper. Ability to focus has gone through the roof. Like I remember when I first did keto and broke on through to the other side, I'm like, oh my God, it's like I discovered a cheat code, like if I need to. I can go to the office and I can literally like sit there the entire day, get all my work done without, eating anything, without getting up to do whatever. I can just have this laser focus on the task at hand and get stuff done, which was amazing. My mood has been more stable, which I've absolutely loved. My skin has gotten a lot better, eating more sugar and carbohydrates back in the day. I have a breakout every once in a while. Now my skin is resilient in comparison. My hair is growing faster than it did. And I know that because back when I played college, I had hair a little bit longer than this. A couple years ago, I shaved my head entirely bald with the razor, and it grew back way faster than it had grown back then. My nails grow like crazy. So yeah, I've seen a lot of positive differences from eating this way.
Yeah, when you were back at USC, was there a lot of times I'm surprised because you see a lot of these athletes and they just eat garbage. I mean, it is McDonald's all day long and stuff like. Was that common there, or?
Surprisingly, yes, there were guys that were just absolute genetic beasts, and they could literally eat whatever they wanted and still just be extremely ripped, perform at the highest level. And, it's absolutely amazing. And I just think speaks to the resiliency and all the unknowns of the human body. Someone like me who wasn't as genetically superior, some of these guys had to, focus on nutrition a little bit more to play at the best level possible. But we had some other guys too that were dialed in, working with the nutritionist, on a weekly basis, ordering special meals from a service that did like this all organic, like pinpointed your macros and everything. So I saw both sides of the spectrum there.
Yeah, I think because you see some of these people that they're high level athletes and they'll go on this sort of plant based kick, and it's usually, in my sort of view, it's usually these guys that are eating the junk food that are genetic outliers that go from eating a pure garbage diet to a not a pure garbage diet, and they say they feel a little better. But I think in the long term that ends up shortening their careers in many cases. You'd mentioned you eat some eggs. How many eggs are you eating? Because some people are worried about if you eat more than one egg a day or something like that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, eat as many eggs as you like. That's my opinion. I mean, when I'm eating eggs, it's normally between 6 to 12 per meal. People always ask me, how many do you do a day on average? Like, I don't know what my average is. Like, maybe I'm out of eggs one day. Maybe I'm traveling. Like, maybe I just want to eat nothing but steak that day. But like today I had 6 for breakfast. I'll probably have 6 to 12 more throughout the day. Yesterday, I think I had like 18. I've done as high as 60 in a day. And like I said, my numbers have always been fine. So I really don't think there's a limit to it. I just think people are scared because of old false data, actually, funded by cereal industry or whatever, that, eggs are bad for you. I eat cereal instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for me to eat a dozen, 18, some days two dozen. I've never eaten 60. That's a pretty big amount there. Was that just the whole day of nothing but eggs, or was it just kind of interesting you'd eat 60 in one day?
So somebody was like comparing me to Gaston on Twitter and said, "Oh, you should do like the Gaston challenge." And said he ate 5 dozen eggs in a day. So I was like, okay. So I went, bought 5 dozen eggs and ate them by like 3 p.m. or something.
Yeah, I'm certainly you can do it. It's not, that's 60 eggs. It's, it's like 60 calories a pop. It's 3,600 calories. It's not that much. I mean, it's not calorically, it's not that much. I mean, so it's certainly doable.
Yeah. I was a pound less on the scale the next day.
Yeah, probably. So I mean, but like I said, I could certainly see doing it. It's just I don't know. I like to eat steak too much to just eat nothing but eggs all day. There's some people that are out there I know there's a guy out there talking about, eggs are going to give you vitamin A toxicity, and I just think more or less that doesn't seem to hold up. I've not seen anybody developing that. I mean, I know a lot of people eat a lot of eggs, and it seems to be. Yeah. Seems to be fine for most people. There are some people that don't tolerate them. And it is quite fair to say that a lot of people have egg sensitivities. That's true.
Yeah.
When you eat, your steaks or your eggs or whatever, are you like making sure it's always grass finished and pastured eggs, or do you care about that, or what are your thoughts on that?
So, I try to get it as reasonably as I can, grass fed, grass finished, pasture raised eggs. But, sometimes the store is not in stock. Sometimes the prices are just ridiculous. And from my experience and my research, you don't have to be perfect all the time. So a lot of steak I eat will be grain fed. The eggs normally are pasture raised, not 100% of the time. Sometimes it's free range. Sometimes it's just, they had a sale on whatever. It's a grocery store. But I think you have too many people that get a little bit too critical where everything has to be perfect. It's like, listen, if I'm going to, have a meal of grain fed beef and, non-pasture raised eggs, that's still healthier than having a bowl of refined pasta and washing it down with a soda, So the aim is to eat grass-fed beef whenever possible and pasture-raised eggs whenever possible. But sometimes it's just not reasonable. So.
Yeah. And, my experience, and I've dealt with literally thousands of people. It doesn't seem to make that big of a difference for human health. Now, I can see there's some environmental benefits to doing that, I think, and that type of stuff. But I think, you eat what you got access to, what you enjoy. And I think that makes a lot of sense because it can get pricey, if you're trying to only eat, certain types, and prices have gone up, even more in recent times as I'm sure all of us are aware, we got this sort of inflationary thing that's making it a little tight for some people. How do you, I see you, like somebody's asking, how do you cook? How did you prepare the eggs? I know a lot of times you just slonk them, as raw eggs, which I certainly have done plenty of those, but do you have a way you prefer them or do you just chug them raw a lot of times?
So my favorite way to eat eggs is sunny side up. And, the way I prepare them, because I get asked, multiple times per day, is I'll usually put a little bit of coconut oil on a nonstick pan. And then I'll put on a glass lid. And if I see any areas where the whites aren't cooking like I like, I'll spread them around a little, maybe tilt the pan to get it to move. And then, before they look like they're finished cooking, they're still going to keep cooking after you turn the stove off. I'll take off the lid, turn off the stove, and let them finish from the heat that's already accumulated. Only takes a few minutes. Pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah, there's I've seen some pretty creative ways to do that. Some people are like folding them into squares and, they're cooking the whites separate and then dropping it. I mean, there's just kind of all these crazy things to do. I probably right now about 80% of what I eat is just raw. I just throw it in a blender and chug it down. I mean, it's just I'm pretty lazy. I mean, honestly, when it comes to cooking, I just do the basics on steak, salt, grill, boom, done. Eggs raw, suck them down. It's good. What about you? Said you do some 3 days a week, pretty intense training. What does your training preference look like? What are you doing? Are you doing some just compound lifts? Are you doing any kind of high intensity stuff, or what's going on for your training style?
So I prioritize big compound lifts. So squat, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, and barbell rows. Those are the big five that I'm prioritizing around. And then I like to add in some accessories here and there too. Like I'll do some dumbbell work, of course, dumbbell bench, dumbbell row, curls. You got to do curls, man. You got to build those arms. French press for the triceps. Some machines here and there. Like been doing a lot of leg extension to develop my quads better. I'll use the leg press, not to actually do leg press, but to do calf press to grow the calves. Some ab work here and there, but mainly it's just the compound list is what I'm focused on. And then, I'll focus on other accessories just depending on what I have time for, what I'm really trying to develop and focus on.
Are you doing any cardiovascular conditioning at all? Any kind of like HIIT style sprinting or walk, maybe walking? I guess you probably walk a lot, I would imagine, around New York. But I mean, do you focus on, you're probably not spending an hour on the treadmill, I'm imagining.
I hate running. So I just walk. I walk all around the city. I push my son in his stroller all around, like take random walks sometime. Yeah, maybe my health would improve a little bit by doing some more high intensity cardio. But I do think the style that I lift, my heart rate's getting up. And if I were to go run a mile right now, I could probably beat most people anyways. I mean, a couple of years ago, I had to run like a mile and a half or something. Went and knocked it out easy, no problem. Used to do a lot of cardio on the stationary bike when I was cutting. And I realized, you know what? I'd rather just cut my calories because I don't like cardio. So just lots of walking and high intensity lifting.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I got dogs. Dogs are a great exercise device. I think if you got a dog, take them for a walk. What about? I mean, are you doing? I mean, because you talk about can you get a cardiovascular workout weightlifting? You throw a decent amount of weight on the bar and you squat it for 20 reps. You guarantee your heart rate's up there. Are you doing some like high rep stuff as well?
Yeah, so I have my heavier low weight days, then I'll have my higher rep days where like, I'll put like 3 plates on the bar and then do 3 sets of 10, maybe a burnout set, put 225 reps pounds and do like 20 reps of it or something like that. Heavy Bulgarian split squats with dumbbells, that'll get your heart rate up, 3 sets of 10 with 100 pounds each hand. Like you're going to be breathing heavy. So, yeah, I do have some, higher volume type days, which counts as cardio to me.
Yeah, I got this trainer called Mike Boyle that would be he was a big fan of the heavy loaded, unilateral training, particularly split squats. And I definitely do those things as well. You've got very little fiber in your diet. Do you have any problem with bowel movements or anything like that? Is that fine for you?
Everything's fine. I mean, like, the only times I think there's ever problems with digestion is just if I've eaten such like a massive amount of food that it's going to take my body a while to digest it. But that, really doesn't matter what I'm eating. If I'm going to eat mass quantities of something, it's going to give my body trouble. And like, like I'll have some fiber every now and then when I have vegetables, or like, maybe I'm running around and, need something quick, and like, all right, I know this place has Quest bars. I don't feel like finding whatever they have healthy. If they don't have salmon, I can just pick up and eat. I'll have one of those that they have some fiber or whatever. But I'm not like, intentionally trying to hit a certain amount of fiber, and I'm not having problems. So.
Yeah. So obviously you got this Twitter warning about, cholesterol, and I think you put it in the context of testosterone. Because cholesterol is a precursor for a number of different hormones in our body, including the sex hormones. Are you worried about that? Are you worried about like, oh my God, you're going to have a heart attack? Is that ever crossed your mind? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not worried. Like, as far as my research, and I'm sure yours as well, people are blaming the steak and the eggs for what the refined carbohydrates and sugar did. So, I mean, based on the way I feel, the way I can perform, like, I don't feel I have any need to be worried. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. So people shouldn't be like, hey, this Zack guy on the internet said something, so I shouldn't be worried. Speak to your own doctor, do your own research, do your own tests. But me personally, I'm not concerned.
How do you mind sharing how old you are? How old are you now, Zack?
I'm 33.
33. Okay. So you're still, obviously relatively young when it comes to talking about heart disease and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see, do you anticipate you're going to continue doing this for the foreseeable future?
I mean, yeah, like, as long as it doesn't inconvenience me, which it hasn't, like, personally, I prefer foods like steak, eggs, butter, chicken, different meats, vegetables here and there. So like, those are the foods I naturally like. So maybe this way of eating is a little easier for me than someone else. Like, I know when I was a kid, my parents would hide these sticks of butter from me because I would try and eat them. So I just like richer, heavier, real foods. And like to your point earlier, people look at someone eating an ice cream cone, that's normal, but, eating a piece of salmon is crazy. It's like, okay, so I enjoy real, like, whole foods. Like, isn't that what I'm supposed to be eating? So when people wonder how long is this sustainable, I'm like, eating real food should be sustainable forever, shouldn't it? That's like real food.
Yeah, that is true. So onto that topic, there is obviously a lot of investment capital, a lot of venture capital into synthetic meat or, precision fermentation, or they're going. I saw a company in Finland say they've got these. They can make, soy and some other ingredient, some other plant ingredient, just exactly mimic the flavor and taste of meat. That's what they're confident they can do. Are you interested in that? Or does that excite you? Are you like, I can't wait to eat this upcoming lab stuff, or no?
No, that upsets me, and I don't trust it. I really think it's all about profit. So it's just someone trying to sell you something. That's my opinion.
I think that's a pretty valid opinion. That's kind of mine as well. But we'll have to see how many people tend to fall for that. Have you, like I said, since you've been a little more public about this, have you noticed anybody? Have you been able to influence any people? Are you trying to influence anybody? Have you seen people say, "Hey, let me try this too," or not?
So I don't argue with anybody. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. Like I said, when I created my Twitter account, I just showed people what I actually did. I know people have reached out to me. Hey, I saw you're eating this way, so I started doing it. I feel great. My lifts have gone up. I lost weight. I fit into my high school jeans, like whatever. But I'm not trying to argue with anybody because like I don't care what anybody else eats. That's really none of my business. If you like what I eat, you want to eat how I eat, great. If you don't, like fine, eat how you want to eat. I really don't care. So.
Yeah, fair enough. And you mentioned, you do your work throughout the day. Do you mind sharing what you do, or is that sort of something you're keeping under?
Just at a high level, I had been working in finance for a pretty long time, and now recently I started working in tech.
Okay. And are you? Do you work with Are you with people, or you do it all remotely, or do you work with other people?
I work with other people for a real company, not like a solopreneur or anything.
Got it. And the people you work with, do they know what you do as far as eating? Are they saying what the heck? Or is it fairly normal?
So one of my colleagues shot me a text after the Newsweek article was published, and so now some of them joke with me about steak and eggs. So I never told anyone like what I do, but someone saw it, and I guess it spread a little bit. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar at this point.
Yeah, I wonder because you got long hair, the beard, you kind of got the cave. Maybe you think you're like the caveman or something like that. Is that gone? Is that joke been around or no?
Oh yeah, caveman jokes, Jesus jokes. Say when I don't have a beard, I look like Thor with the beard, Aquaman. So I get a lot of that, but that's to be expected. I think it's hilarious. So.
Yeah, that's it reminds me. There was a I'm forgetting his name. It was a guy who played rugby for France, and he looked very similar. Big beard, big strong guy. He's about 6'6", about 250, and he was just pretty jacked guy. But they called him the caveman. I can't remember what his name was now. Somebody probably knows. Somebody's listening to this. But as far as you want to continue lifting, is there any goals that you want to hit in the gym, or any strength numbers you're looking at trying to hit?
The goalposts are always moving, man. Like, you tell yourself you're going to hit a certain weight on bench press, squat, deadlift, and you're just going to maintain that and look lean, look good, focus on your health. You hit those numbers, you're like, screw this, man. I need to add another plate. So it's just to keep progressing as far as I can. There's no number on the board, but just want to get stronger over time. I do realize there will come a point in time, decades ahead of me, where weight probably will need to decline. But I'll jump that hurdle when I get there.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, it doesn't have to be that much at all. I mean, I'm like I said, I just hit some numbers, strongest I've been since in my mid 40s. Because I went through a period where I went from 290 down to 230, and then maintained about 240 for about 10 years. And I decided recently I'm just going to get a little stronger. And it's coming, and it's kind of fun to see that. So you got at least 30 years of possible strength training that you can do to get stronger. It's kind of interesting.
It's made my year.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to see. Do you foresee always being in New York, or do you guys ever think about like we're gonna go somewhere else?
I love New York City. I'm not from here, originally from San Diego, but I always had a fascination with the city ever since I first came here as a young teenager. Previously working in finance and it being the financial capital of the world, I did tell my wife back when we were dating, like, hey, at one point we're going to move to New York City because I think it'd be a great career move. And I personally would love to live there. And I do like it better, more each and every day. But we'll see where life takes us. I mean, if there's a good opportunity to be had, we could go on ahead and move. But for the foreseeable future, I think we'll be here.
Yeah, and you said you got one child?
Correct, one son.
How old is he?
He turns 2 in less than 2 weeks.
2 and less. Awesome. Congratulations. So, any plans for some more? Is that on the horizon maybe, or?
Oh, we would love to have some more kids. So when it feels right, we'll get ready for baby number 2. And funny, I just wanted to note the other day, I brought home some ribeyes and some butter. He is obsessed with butter, just like me. So I made mommy a ribeye, and he wanted it so bad and wanted butter on every piece. So he's got the same preferences as me.
Yeah, it's interesting how some kids are they just know. They're like, that's,
Yeah.
did he get to try some ribeye? Did he try some yet?
Oh yeah, he loves it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's funny. It's kind of neat to see because a lot of people say, well, kids wouldn't naturally do that. They want just to eat a piece of fruit, which, this is one of the vegan arguments. And like I've seen too many little kids go nuts over, give them a steak, a ribeye steak, give them a bone, and they'll just gnaw on that like they're as happy as can be. It's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those psychos either that's gonna, force some kind of like orthorexic habits onto my son.
Yeah.
He eats apples, grapes, yogurt, avocado, strawberries. Like, we'll give him a piece of chocolate. He loves chocolate. Like, we're not gonna do anything like crazy like some of these people. So I just need to clarify that because like I said I feed him ribeye and butter, and I know someone will misinterpret that.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, it's I think as long as if you can avoid all the hyper processed garbage that's out there, and just feed them real food, and throw them some steaks and eggs, and once in a while, that's a pretty good prescription, I think. And I think that works pretty well. And he will be. I mean, just by doing that, he'll already be in like the top 5% of kids, just because he's got good nutrition. Everybody else is feeding their children, pure garbage, which is really a sad thing to see. Are you seeing, I mean, I don't know, how long have you been in New York now? You've been in there for what, 10 years or something like that?
Almost 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So relatively new. I don't know what the situation is with obesity in New York. I mean, it's a fairly, obviously a diverse city, and there's a lot of walking, which may mitigate some of that, but are you seeing a lot of health issues in New York?
I mean, like you said, it's a super diverse city. So I see a lot of things. I see a ton of fit people, and I see a ton of unfit people. But I mean, I don't know. I think the rates are the same in New York and in San Diego from what I remember. So, it's just, unfortunately we're trending, it looks like in the wrong direction, but like all over the country. But I wouldn't say that like New York itself looks, any different as far as like we're extremely worse or extremely better than somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, certainly San Diego is a relatively fit city, and I think New York is probably reasonable. I mean, some of the other places, you look at like New Orleans or something like that, where you just have really, really San Antonio, Houston, you've got some real issues with obesity, and we're projected to touch up to about 50% by 2030 of not just overweight, but actually obese, which is just an absolute travesty. And then you get all the other things that are associated with that, including a lot of the mental health illnesses. Right now, we've got something like 20% of the Americans are on medications for mental illness, which is just 20% of 350 million is a lot of people. That's 70 million people, something like that are on these drugs for mental illness, and nutrition is a big part of that. Zach, we don't have that much time left. Is there anything that we didn't chat about that you want to maybe just put out there that you want to share for us?
I mean, I think we did touch on everything. I mean, to state again what I said before, like the way that I eat, it works for me. And I encourage everybody to do their own research and to experiment and do what works best for them. For some people, perhaps it is eating like me. Probably not the quantities that I eat unless you're 6'5". You're 230, 240 pounds, lift intensely, and are very active. But I just want to encourage everybody to do their own research and own experimentation and eat the way that makes you feel best. So ultimately that will probably end up being some kind of whole foods type diet and healthier than what people have been doing if they're eating a lot of this ultra processed food. When
you transition to a low carb, ketogenic, and even animal based diet, a lot of people say, well, these bad things will happen to you. Were you concerned? Were you worried about anything in the back of your mind? Like, oh my God, I'm worried about this happening. And if so, what were they? And obviously they probably didn't happen.
Well, I thought, people do talk about cholesterol issues. People do talk about, heart disease, whatever. So, if I start feeling anything wrong or numbers come back wrong, like, okay, I'll address it. But, I feel healthy as ever. So I've literally had nothing to be concerned about except not fitting my old clothes. I got rid of them.
because you got bigger, I guess, right? Or maybe smaller.
My old clothes that I wore when I was like 290 pounds.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I can't fit into those anymore. All right. Well, perfect. Well, Zach, you mentioned you're on Twitter. Do you have any other social media? And if not, can you share your particular handles?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me Twitter. It's Zack Strength, and that's Zack with a CK. Instagram is the same. YouTube is the same. TikTok is the same. I also have a Facebook page, and you can find me at my actual real name there. That is Zack Kushner, which is spelled Kusnir.
Kusnir. Okay, perfect. Well, Zack, thank you for taking the time and appreciate you being public about what you're doing. I think the more people that demonstrate good health by doing this, just the more people will be willing to try it. And you're another example of many I've seen. So thanks for doing that stuff. Appreciate it. For the rest of you guys, we'll see you guys back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Shawn. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to be on here.
Thanks, Zach. Take care now. Bye-bye.